Two. We're live. All right, cool. So you guys know the deal. Gonna share it out real quickly whenever it comes on our screens. Then we will get started.
Definitely.
So, just a few announcements while we are sharing this broadcast out. PTCast opens tomorrow, June 29th, Thursday, 12 noon Eastern time. So if you're applying this cycle, I'm sure you've known already, but if you don't know, now you know. Tomorrow, 12 noon Eastern time, Thursday, June 29th. Let us know what questions you have. Check out the PTCast, the new format, because they're rolling out a new format this year. Let us know what questions you have, your concerns. We got you here for you. Second announcement, it's about a week until we are closing the free PTCast essay review. The prompt is still the same: professionalism as a student in physical therapy school. So get that in before July 6th, 11:59 p.m. The reason for that is because you guys need a deadline. If you don't have a deadline, it's just going to be shoved to the side. And before you know it, it's August, it's September, it's October. So you need a deadline. Get it in. Write something. It does not have to be perfect, but get it into us so we can read it and give you feedback, because we are working on more for you. We have some projects, some things coming for you, so we need some time to work on that, as well as read your essays that come in before July 6th. So get that in. If it's after July 6th, don't worry. Just going to pay a little small fee, $20, and that's just reviews. If you already sent us your essays, you're good. Don't worry. You're already in. That's why speed wins. So let's make sure this is shared everywhere. There we go.
Yep, we should be just about there.
Let me share this to the group. All right. And what are we talking about tonight, Jos?
All right. So tonight we're gonna have some fun. Now, for those of you that had seen a video that Casey had recorded not too long ago, he was talking about test anxiety. And for a lot of pre-PT students especially, we have the GRE coming up for those that are in the application process for physical therapy school. And obviously, if you are not at that point yet, test anxiety is still a very real thing that affects a lot of us. And so we're going to talk a little bit about test anxiety. Just first of all, really acknowledge that it exists, but also talk about ways that you can counter that or work through that and accomplish absolutely anything throughout your journey, not only as a high schooler or as a college student, but ultimately as a physical therapy student and physical therapist, obviously, because you have to take your boards and all that good stuff. So we'll talk about that. And then this next point's kind of key. Last week, when we were having our live call, our good friend Yusra had commented, and she, because we were essentially saying, hey, if people have, if pre-PT students or individuals that are listening to these lives have a topic that they would like to hear spoken about or just really addressed in these lives, we said comment below or send that to us. And she wanted to hear about the school life, health, balance, how to put it all together, especially as a pre-PT student and ultimately as a DPT student, because you want to be able to manage your health, of course, especially if you love being outdoors, working out, staying in shape, eating healthy, but you also want to succeed as a student. So how do you really do that? How do you make that all come together? So those are our two topics. So Casey, for those that missed the video that you had shared earlier, a few days ago, would you mind giving us a recap on what you addressed in that video?
Right. So a little while ago in our pre-Doctor of Physical Therapy group, there was a question about someone was struggling with tests like over and over again, standardized tests, chemistry, physics. It didn't really matter what it was. She couldn't so I've had that struggle myself, and I'm sure many other students have as well. And I came to the conclusion was that it was pretty much just all mindset. Like the pressure was all in your head. It was all. I mean, the pressure was real. Don't get me wrong, but you you can get over that if you just view it in a different light. So the pressure was that if you don't get a good grade in this chemistry test, you're not going to get a high enough GPA to get into PT school. If you don't get into PT school, you're not going to have a job, right? And if you don't have a job, you're not going to make money. If you don't make money, you're not going to eat. So all that pressure during that, 50, 75 question chemistry physics test. So what I was basically saying was that if you just shift your mindset a little differently and view that test as just a piece of paper with words on it, just like an assignment, just like a project, just like an essay paper, that pressure can be lifted off your shoulders just a little bit to get you over that hump and to get you that, B plus, A plus, and everything can change. And it worked for me because when I got rejected the first time from PT school and I was taking physics, like the pressure was on. If I got 2 questions wrong on that physics test, I would get a B plus instead of an A minus, or an A minus instead of an A plus. Then I would be rejected twice from PT school instead of just once. So like I understand, like the pressure's real, the pressure's on, but I just shifted my mindset just slightly enough that I could get that A, that A plus on that test, and eventually, get a good enough grade to get into PT school in that class and subsequent classes. So that's what works for me. And from that comment, I just shared that in a comment, and there was really good feedback. So I was like, okay, this can probably reach a lot more people than just this group. So I made a little video, just edit it and put it out, was that a few days ago?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Perfect. And I think the key there is understanding that exams do not define you, right? And I think for myself, that was a big fear that I had for a long period of time. And Casey, you mentioning, just a quick side note for you mentioning not getting into PT school the first time and kind of having to go through that process before getting accepted. For those of you watching, go find our latest podcast episode with Dr. Cindy, and she talks about her journey. Really, it was a 3-year gap between the time that she had finished her bachelor's, her health science bachelor's, and getting into physical therapy school, and just seeing that process, especially for those of you that have applied once before or twice. I've heard someone had reached out to me saying 3 times even. And so seeing that it is possible, and the ways in which you can go about that to achieving that. But back on to test anxiety, it does not define you, right? So for myself, let's go back a little bit. Quick story. So I was pretty bad with exams. I actually, for the majority of my academic experience, I haven't been the greatest with exams. But there was a key turning point in my academic journey that started helping me see that exactly what you said, Casey, like it doesn't define you, right? It's a mindset thing. It's an entire approach, right? So check it. So I was a freshman in high school. At my high school, elementary school, I honestly didn't really care much for school. So during elementary school, I was just kind of riding low. Now looking back, I have no idea how I passed to 7th, 8th grade, whatever. Anyway, I got to high school. First exam, it was earth science class. I remember specifically, I remember where I sat down. I followed that same concept. I was going to just kind of ride it low. I didn't really care much to study. I actually did not know how to study. Freshman in high school, did not know how to study. And so sat for the first exam, and I was like, okay, whatever. I'll do what I have to do. Got a D- on it, right? Now, here's the thing. Your boy comes from Kenya, right? So I'm from the continent of Africa, which means that the grades like that have no place in the household at all. So you either find a way to change the grade, find a way to just avoid the conversation altogether, or just,
Mm.
move to a different location. Like that's all like those are the only those are the only options you have, because excellence is required. So obviously my parents found out what my grade was, and instead of scolding me, my mother realized I just hadn't identified for myself how to approach the studying concept, right? So she said, all right, Joseph, listen, for all your next exams, you're studying with me. And in my mind, I'm like, yo, Ma, like, I'm not trying to study with you. I'm sorry. Like it's just
Nice.
not for me. But she said, you're studying with me. And so what she did, and honestly, to this day, I thank my mother for just being able to open my eyes to just the full spectrum of how to approach my education process. So what she did was this. She said, Joseph, we're going to sit at the dining table, open up your earth science book. I was like, cool. All right, I'll do that. I do that all the time. I just open it for 5 minutes, then I close it. She said, all right, open it up, and I want you to read the chapter that you have to read tonight to me. Just read it out loud. I read it to her all the way through. Then she said, all right, now explain to me what you just read. I was like, what do you mean? You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? What do you mean? Like, what do you mean explain to you what I just read? She said, no, explain to me what you just read. And so I tried. First time I fumbled because I really didn't understand what I was reading. I was just flying through it, right? I was going through the motions. And then now when I started having to teach her, it started sinking more and more. And she did that with every single chapter. Next test, I got a B. Test after that, got an A minus. Then I started writing A's, bro. One time that same semester, she said, Joseph, you don't need me anymore. Now what you do is sit in the same spot you sit, look at the same chair I sit in, and teach that chair every single time. And I did that, y'all, for that year. Like I ended up graduating with honors in high school. Like I had no idea how to
Hey,
test take,
nice.
right? But what it did, it's not that it gave me more knowledge. It taught me how to approach the whole thing. It taught me how to pay attention when I was studying. It taught me how to be confident in myself. And I think the confidence was what was key, right? It taught me to be confident in myself as a student. And so it's a mindset, right? But understanding that the test is not what makes you you, it's not what defines you, is the beginning of that journey. So test anxiety is real, y'all. It definitely gets the best of us, but the possibilities of what can be done to counter it, to get over it, under it, around it, are what we're going to chat about. Case, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, and I just want to say that it's, I mean, at least for me, for other people it might happen overnight, but for me, it took time and practice to shift my mindset enough to get those good grades and to see those scores go up. So if you try this on your next test and you're like, Casey told me, Joseph told me to do this, hey, don't get mad. It's gonna take some time. It's gonna take some practice, like
Definitely.
anything else. But Joseph, I think you're going through. You're probably not feeling test anxiety, or maybe you are, but you're going through something probably similar soon, right? You have, I believe you have this kind of big test coming up, so you can probably relate with the GRE, the students taking
Yes,
the
sir.
GRE and people taking summer school, and the people just trying to boost their grades. So can you talk about your struggles going on right now? Because they could probably look at us and be like, oh, they made it. They're not struggling no more. It's nothing. Like, I got a test tomorrow. I just had a mock board exam today. So I mean, it's the same. We're going through it.
No, I hear you, man. Yeah, I'm feeling it right now. So right now, I'm in my last year of physical therapy school, doing my last clinical rotation. For all of you that are going to get into PT school, that's part of the process. It's great because you get to be hands-on with patients prior to actually being certified physical therapist. It's a lot of fun. But in the process, it's like you're working a full-time job, obviously working on other projects, including pre-PT grind and all that other stuff. But lastly, I'm studying for my board exam, which is in less than 3 weeks, right? And so it's been a process to come home after being at work, muster up enough energy, right, to be focused on that. And there are nights where I honestly do not want to touch the book, right? But for me, it's knowing where I'm trying to get, and I think it's goal setting is part of it. Knowing what you're trying to accomplish. I told Casey, I was like, bro, I have no intentions of taking this thing more than twice. No, sorry, more than once, right? I have no intention of taking it twice. And so regardless of what I have to balance, we're hitting balance next. But
good segue.
regardless of what I have to balance, regardless of what I have to do, like I have to like tell myself that this thing is going to go well. Because when I see myself, when I envision myself succeeding on the exam, right? Envisioning myself to succeed on the exam, I see that. And I'm focusing on that every single time. And I say, all right, now I got to put the work in to match that, right? Never letting my mind tell me, man, like what happens if you don't pass? What happens? I mean, what do you do that? No, like there's no time to think about that, right? That's just not a thing, right? That can't be a thing. You have to refuse to have that be a thing, right? It's like listening to, Kobe Bryant's my favorite player. Like for him, losing was just not an option. When it happened, it just meant that the next game was not, like every single time, it was never an option, right? He lost games and he won games, but losing was never an option. So it's a mentality, it's a mindset, right? And so, yeah, I'm having to do that right now. I'm having to learn how to take breaks in between, learning how to, segment my time accordingly, learning how to, when my mind is fried, realizing, all right, this ain't gonna go in if I keep going with it. Like if I just keep reading stuff, it's gonna be nonsensical, right? So I'm gonna stop reading this. I'm gonna go edit a podcast. I'm gonna go shoot some hoops. I'm gonna go take a jog. I'm gonna go take a quick nap. You know what I mean? Like you have to do that. But when you envision the success of you passing the exam, that even as you're studying becomes part of what motivates you to do absolutely everything.
Yeah, that's great. I just want to give a few shout outs to the people who are joining us. We have what I can see 17 people. We're doing this through BeLive, everyone. So if you want a little shout out, just comment down below because we cannot see you unless we go to like Facebook, then look on who liked it, see who comes. So we got Gabby here, Cody, what's up? Gary, Gabby, Melissa, I think Jared was on, Matt, Andy, Jonas. So what's up, guys? If you want us to know you're here, just comment a little something about yourself, comment on what you like. If you're experiencing something similar, let us know what's up. Just say hi. So Joseph, you were doing a pretty good segue into our next section. But before that, we were talking a little bit in the pre-interview about some other ways to relieve test anxiety. We were mentioning treat yourself post-exam, exercise, positive self-talk, removing distractors, envisioning yourself succeeding, rest. Sleep is a huge thing. I took a nap yesterday for the first time in a long time.
Hey.
Probably shouldn't have, but I did anyways.
Nah, bro, you better claim that nap.
What else? Pace yourself, and be consistent with your study strategy. So
a pre-game routine, man. Yeah. I love the pre-game routine. It's like all professional athletes that are successful, bro. Like they always have. Y'all seen Steph Curry before a game? Every single time, your boy is out here like doing the same ball handling, drill every single time before every single game. It doesn't matter if it's a playoff game, regular season game, against the Bucks, against the Lakers. Lakers the only team that matters, right? Against any other team, it doesn't really matter. Like that's his pre-game routine, because what that does is it allows you to know, all right, like I've been here before, right? This is not unfamiliar territory. So for you with exams, that's a very big thing to incorporate into what you do to help you, avoid or conquer that anxiety that comes with test taking. Come up with your own routine. That could be, drinking 2 cups of water, taking, it could be anything, but it allows you to know I've been here before. I have done this before. This is nothing new. This is just another piece of paper. Like Casey was saying, this does not define me. Let's
now going out. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right, cool. We're in here. So segueing into our next topic is school life balance. So what do you think, Joseph? Is there school life balance? Can we even have it, or is there such thing as balance? Life, school, work, play, sleep, everything. Can you balance it?
I used to think you could.
Mm.
Uh, Hear us out. But no, there's no school life balance. It doesn't exist. It's not a thing. And here's why. I mean, Jerry Durham actually commented on one of our posts recently, and he said it perfectly, bro. He said balance. It's all about priorities. That's all it is. And I think when you try to look at your 24-hour day, it's actually not possible to fit in every single thing that you want to do, right? If you like your TV shows, if you obviously want to study for this test, if you like to, do your martial arts, if you like sports, if you want to go do this, if you want to hang out with your want to do, correct? So now that could easily be, he said, if I could fit those in a day, that would be my school life balance. Now health, right? Okay. Yeah. If I could afford, healthy foods, if I could go for a jog in the morning, if only I didn't have to wake up at 6 a.m. and I could have an extra hour, maybe I could run in the mornings. There is no such a thing because the way the day is structured, it just doesn't allow for that time, but there are priorities, right? So right now, the saying it, school life balance is not a thing. It does not exist. As a college student, you may have more time, right? So I remember like in college, I had a little more time to kind of do extra things, but it's still a priorities game, right? When it comes to studying, when it comes to your health, right? Health is a very important thing, whether that's going to work out, having a membership at the YMCA, going for runs, doing stuff at a playground. You can do a lot of, free body things, eating right? Making sure that you're taking care of yourself sleep-wise, making sure that you're leaving enough time to study. That becomes a priorities game, right? And so now's when you say, all right, these are all the things I want to do. All right, what's number one? What can I not go without? Okay, is school my priority, or is hanging with my friends at the mall priority? All right, is my health a priority, or is just trying to get through this study thing for the next 3 hours with some ramen a priority? You feel me? Like, what is your priority? Casey, talk about that one analogy that we were talking about the other day with the vase.
Yeah.
That describes it perfectly.
So I'm sure a lot of you have heard this before or seen it somewhere from your teachers, YouTube, Facebook. But when there's a vase and you try to put the sand in first, then you try to put like marbles. You can't fit all the marbles and rocks in it. But if you put all the big priorities, all the important stuff in first, which are represented by the rocks, the marble using, then you can fit in your naps, your Facebook time, your YouTube, your movies, your hanging out with your friends, your sports. So that simple analogy that we all heard of, that comes perfectly into play here. So use that simple analogy that we all know when you're having a hard time choosing, studying or, I don't know, playing basketball, playing video games. Because I'd like just as much as the next person to be on the couch playing, 2K 2017
with
or, with the Lakers or, watching Netflix. But I got other stuff to do. I got to serve you guys. I got to test. I got other things. I have to structure my time very wisely. And sometimes you have to cut out, you can't cut out school. You might have to cut out that Netflix time, that YouTube time. So everybody's saying, oh, there's balance. I don't have enough time. But what do you really want to do? You're going to make, like everybody knows, you're going to make time for what you want to make time for. So yeah, it's as simple as that.
It's exactly that simple. And I think what it also boils down to is knowing what your goals are, right? So let's go with physical therapy school, because pre-PT grind. Why not? It's a pretty standard example. With getting into physical therapy school, let's say you're trying to get into PT school, right? Now you analyze self-analysis of knowing where you're at, whether it's a low GPA, whether it's a high GPA. If you're a freshman in college just starting out, whoa, you have a clean slate. You can do whatever you want. That's fantastic. You can write your own story now. But if you're at a point where you've, had some ups and downs, really like self-analysis, right? And I think that podcast, once again, shout out to the podcast that we just dropped. Y'all go listen to that, right? Because why? And if you look on the little promo poster, it says like it is possible, right? Because for Cindy, she knew, like she had no doubt physical therapy was for her. And I think the fear is, oh man, like I really want to do PT. Like I really think it's for me, but I've applied twice. I think I should try something else. Let me go switch to another profession. Let me go do whatever. No, like if you know that's for you and that's your calling, then like what you have to do is now step back and say, all right, now what do I have to do? What do I have to either get rid of? What do I like? Is it classes that I have to retake? As I'm retaking them, what prevented me from passing before? Right? Like what happened? Like let me step back and reanalyze everything. Right? So that now, because my goals are clear, my priorities fall in line with those goals. For myself, I know it's not a lot of people. When I was a freshman, like I knew that PT school was where I was trying to go. Our program has a 3+3 program. So I was trying to get done with my bachelor's classes in 3 years, go straight to PT school in 3 years, and no one was getting in my way. That's just how I saw it, right? It was that simple to me. Like and so like one of my boys, Dwayne Haskins, I mean, we loved playing 2K, but every single time we had classes, we said 2K is not going to be a distractor. 2K is what we do once we finish studying for the day. That becomes our reward. So every little thing we did, like all our priorities were in line with getting into PT school at a certain time. Like we gave ourselves a certain time. We said, we're getting in this time, understanding what the program demands, requires. So if my friends are going out to hang and party or whatever, or going to a ball game or doing whatever, I'm saying, all right, cool. Reanalyze. What are the goals? Okay, get into PT school. Cool. What do I have tomorrow? Oh, I got 2 exams. Or I can go to the ball game tonight. I love ball, right? But what's my priority right now? What's my priority? What's going to get me to my goal? It's the studying, correct? So priorities are everything. The balance does not exist. It's simply an acknowledgement of what your goal is, and then saying, all right, now, today, this morning, this afternoon, this evening, what are my priorities? And then you act on them.
So we have a question from Melissa. And this actually ties in. I'll read it to you because I know you probably can't see the whole thing. But this ties into our podcast, I believe next week or maybe the week after, with Dr. Kyle Rice.
Yeah.
And she's asking, or she's saying, I've never had problems with tests unless they're standardized. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the fact that they're so long, or that it's a bunch of topics mashed into one exam. Whereas school tests, they're just based off like 1 or 4 units. Are there any GRE test taking tips? And we could touch on this a little bit now, but our podcast potentially next week will address this topic very well.
Sure.
Very well.
Next week for sure.
But
Casey, you want to touch a little bit on it?
Yeah, I mean it's the same concept. It's all in your mind. You can standardize tests. You got to study a little differently. You might have a method. There's books out there you can use. There's companies you can use. There's people you can talk to for, tailored advice, or, broad advice in like a group setting, online group. But essentially it's the same. What you can do is break down your standardized test into 4 separate tests, because the math, writing, verbal, and some other stuff. So you can split up your test. Okay, for this first hour, I'm taking a math test. Okay, take a break. Whatever they have you doing. This next test is, the vocab section. Next test is writing. So that's one tip you can use.
And I think to add to that, and like Casey said, like our podcast next week is going to be fire on it. But I think another thing that you can use tangibly is just remembering that when you're taking an exam, there's going to be, because I remember taking the GRE, and there was a few questions where I started like freaking out unnecessarily. It was just the fact that like I read it the first time and I was like, oh boy, I don't know what that meant. I don't know what that's asking. Oh shoot. And so like initially I started freaking out and being like, okay, let me just pick an answer that kind of makes sense. But then I calmed myself out and I read the question again and I was like, oh, okay, I kind of understand what it's saying. And even if you don't really know specifically, like picking out keywords and attaching them to what the options may be. But I think the key is like being consistent with your test taking strategy. Whenever you're taking an exam, whenever you're taking your practice exams, when you're reading the question. So if your strategy is, I read the question first, in my head, I try to answer it, then I look at the options. It does not matter whether it's an easy question that you think you can fly through or a hard question that you have absolutely no idea how to understand. You have to do it the same way every single time. And I think our guest in our podcast, Dr. Rice, next week hits it. But I think the biggest thing with that is the fact that there are so many easy, like simple mistakes that are made with standardized exams. And I'm speaking to someone that has struggled with standardized exams. Like I do much better with your regular school exam. Standardized tests give me a very hard time. And so it's remembering that now with every single question, you have to approach it the same way. If you approach it the same way when you're practicing for it and when you're taking the real thing, it matches up. And so if you get a question wrong, it's because you didn't know it. But that's cool. Like you're not trying to get 100%. You're just trying to pass the thing. You know what I mean? But then the questions that you should have gotten right, you will get right because you've taken the time to use the same format, the same system every single time you take the exam. And so, and then after that, it's really a mentality game where, I don't know if I want to give out all right, we won't give out any more information than that because the podcast is that good, but it's a mentality thing where you tell yourself that you have prepared well for this, right? So regardless of what questions you encounter, you are equipped to answer them. Like that's it. And so if you read it the first time, you're like, I have no idea what that was. Okay. Just remember, you are equipped to answer it. So now take a deep breath. Close your eyes for 15 seconds if you have to. Then look at it again. Slower if you need to, right? Never changing, because I think the fear is, oh man, like, I don't know what the answer is. I don't know what to do. Let me try every other strategy I've ever heard. And then now, as you're going on, you keep changing it with every single question that it starts confusing the whole process. And you now start missing some questions that you otherwise would have gotten pretty easily. So if you're taking an exam and you feel like you're looking at the screen too long, if it's the GRE because it's computerized, and you're saying, okay, I'm having to read this thing like 3-4 times and I'm not getting it, you may be getting tired from looking at the screen. Like, close your eyes. There's no rule during the exam to tell you that you can't close your eyes. Like, close your eyes, look down, like take a quick break. The test is still going to be there. You will finish it, like with the time frame that you have. But like I said, like next week's podcast is absolute fire. Absolute fire. It's going to have saturated, like heavy content that can be applied to anyone taking standardized exams, everything from the GRE to the board exam for DPT students. So y'all don't miss that out. But I hope that helped with that question regarding the GRE. And thanks for asking.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good time slot. We're around 30 minutes, so I think we did pretty good this time. Last time we went like 40 something minutes, and I was like, we're gonna try to keep it to 20, and it just did not work out. But just reiterating the PTCast, if you are applying this cycle, opens tomorrow, 12 p.m. noon Eastern time. PTCast opens tomorrow, 12 p.m. noon Eastern time. Mm-hmm. So get on that, check it out. It's a new format. We'll be checking it out as well. We'll be giving you feedback, answering some questions. And also, the prompt has been out already. I hope you're getting started. We are taking free PTCast essay submissions, and we are reviewing them for free until July 6th, 11:59 p.m. So get that in as soon as possible. We have a team of about 4 or 5 people looking at your. So this is a one-stop place where you can have about 4 or 5 people looking over your exam and giving you feedback as many times as you need. So that's why we have a time limit or a date on this, because these 5 people are invested in you and future projects for you.
Yep.
So, and all of us have different things to do. You know, some are in the clinic, some are starting PT school. Joseph is graduating soon. I'm going to the clinic soon. So time is of the essence, just like everyone else. But also for you, you need a deadline just to get something in. Because if you don't have a deadline, it's just going to be pushed back and pushed back. So July 6th, 11:59 p.m. Get it into us. Unlimited reviews. We're here for you. If it's after July 6th, $20, unlimited reviews, and you are set to go. Anything
Yes,
else?
sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, and I mean, hey guys, don't fail to reach out to us. You guys can go to our pre-PT grind page. I'm sure it's linked somewhere here. If it's not, just type in pre-PT grind in your search bar on Facebook, and you guys will find us. Follow us, like us, but feel free to message us as well and ask us any specifics that you have. One of us will reach out to you in a comment. We'll start talking and have a blast. And so don't forget to reach out. We're here to serve you guys. And don't remember, decide, prepare, transform, DPT. We helping you decide that the decision process so that you can get to the preparation process, which is the PT school, right? That's the preparation process so that you can transform the world as future physical therapists in our amazing profession. So thank you guys once again for joining us on the Pre-PT Talk live. We hope to see you guys next week. If you guys have any more questions, either comment below, message us, anything like that, and we can incorporate them into our live next week and the week after that and the week after that. We are continuing to serve you guys. It's all about you guys. All right, cool.
Check out the podcast, this week's podcast with Dr. Cindy Zhang as well.
For real, yeah. All right, it's been real.
We'll see ya. If it ends.
If it ends.